Panther people, what up? Hey, thanks for clicking on the Panthers post. I'm Phil Perkins. Thanks for joining us. You may have noticed our cool new thumbnails. Shout out to my bro who, I will admit, is a Seahawks fan. So it says a lot that we got a Seahawks fan making the art for a Panthers vlog. I mean, everyone wants to get on this. It's a lot of fun. Our subscribers, I think, are almost at 600. That's absolutely wild for me personally. Again, for a guy who just did this just for the love of the Panthers, the love of talking about sports and the NFL, this is just an awesome experience. If you are new here, like, subscribe, join the comment community. The Southern hospitality is real. I'm not in Carolina, North or South, but I'm in Southern Ontario. So Southern hospitality has kind of transferred over the border. We all know the NFL is 365, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, but the Carolina Panthers in particular have been churning out the content. Shout out to their social team. But not only are they taking out content, but within that content is news. So let's go no further than the Panthers' original production of Panthers Confidential. I don't know why they didn't call it Carolina Confidential. I'm just big on alliteration. Duh, my name's Phil Perkins. This show's called Panthers Post. The content within it, the storylines within it, taking us behind the scenes of the war room, reliving this draft that just happened, this historical draft. They've been doing back-to-back historical drafts, all defense last year and this year, meeting or surpassing the franchise record in trades in a single draft weekend. Here's some of my takeaways from Panthers Confidential, and it starts and stops with new Panthers GM Scott Fitterer. Can anyone knock this guy right now? I know it's his rookie year as a general manager with the Panthers, but he could do no wrong. Scott Fitterer, dude, I did not know. Well, I knew GMs made money. You can make money and have no class. Scott Fitterer's house, he took us into his house. And I'm here in Southern Ontario where real estate is crazy. The average price of a home, a house, any house, semi-detached, detached, is $1 million. So I don't know what real estate's like in Charlotte, but his house is banging. Let's talk about that draft board.
For Atlanta, we think Kyle Pitts.
Matt Rule would be, if he was a draft analyst, probably the number one draft analyst in the country. He wrote down basically his mock draft for the first 8 picks in the 2021 NFL draft. And obviously everyone knew that Trevor Lawrence was going to go to the Jaguars. He pretty much knew that Wilson was going to go to the Jets, number 2. Number 3, it looks like that talk was real about the Niners liking Mac Jones because he put in Mac Jones. And then at number 4, already, right away, Atlanta, Kyle Pitts. He knew that was going down. Number 5, they saw the Bengals either taking Sewell or Jamar Chase, so he was bang on about that. Number 6, with the Dolphins, they saw that they were going to take one of the Alabama receivers, ended up taking Jalen Waddle. Number 7, with Detroit, they said they weren't too sure, but they said most likely Sewell, and that happened. And that's what left them to where their board was at, and it was Sewell number 1 because he was a left tackle. And they needed one, and they graded him very high. J.C. Horn, number 2, because he was their number 1 corner. And then they had Patrick Surtain, who went right after to the Denver Broncos. And then this surprised me. They didn't have any quarterbacks. They didn't have Justin Fields. They didn't have Mac Jones. They had wide receivers. They had Devontae Smith. They had Jalen Waddle. And that surprised me. Because you already have DJ Moore, you have Robbie Anderson, you have David Moore, you have Christian McCaffrey. Could make some sense for some rumors that are going around there that originated from Walter Football, a site that, I love it, kind of stuck design-wise in 1997, but they turn out the content like crazy. They dropped a report through sources that the Panthers were shopping wide receiver Robbie Anderson, which would make some sense because he and DJ Moore and Dante Jackson are all in contract years. So they got to pay big money to some of those guys. Most likely Dante and DJ. Robbie might be the odd man out. So instead of losing him for nothing, it would make more sense to lose him and try to get some draft capital, more draft capital, then a conditional pick, maybe another player who could help. Back to JC, when he finally got drafted by the Carolina Panthers, it was so heartwarming to see when he was walking through the field at Bank of America Stadium, call his mom. And tell his mom that, hey, Mom, we made it. We made it. And then she said, we made it too, Ja. And he broke down. And it's so great to see someone reach their potential and just, as his mom said, just let it out. Appreciate how you got to this point. Matt Rule was all about Tommy Tremble. Now, they showed his reaction to all the draft picks, but the only one that elicited the two fist up out of Matt Rule was for Tommy Tremble. Seems like he just cannot wait to get his hands on Tommy Tremble and make him great almost immediately. I think because he's going to give him the support. He's going to give him everything he needs to be successful right off the gate. So I don't think he's just going to be a guy who's coming in for power blocking with Brady Christensen like we saw them do during rookie minicamps. I think he's going to make an impact on the offense as well. Enough about the draft. I think we've beaten that thing to death. I know it's awesome. Hope is through the roof after a weekend like that. But let's talk about actual football. And by that I mean dudes wearing helmets, doing football-y things, no contact. But this past week, it was OTAs, optional team activities. And if you take a look at the photos and the videos that the Panthers social churned out there, it wasn't scrubs showing up at OTAs. It was anyone who is going to be a contributor for this team. You had the Sam Darnolds, you had the Christian McCaffreys, Brian Burns was working out as well. You had some of the you had some of the rookie wide receivers. You had many of the starters on defense and offense. You had J.C. Horn. You had your high draft picks, and that's great to see. And that's something that Matt Rule talks about with reporters, that it's great to have everybody there at this point. Because remember, last year, no one can get together. It was all via Zoom. It was all crap. And he even talked about how some of the people he worked with had just seen his face for the first time that day. And also, we can start figuring out, and by we, I mean the coaches, can start figuring out everyone's strengths and weaknesses and what they have to focus on before we get to training camp, not wait until training camp or even the season to figure out what people can and can't do and what they have to work on. Championships are won right now. In the off season, they always talk about if you want to get abs, you got to start not in the summer to get abs. You got to start in the winter, right after Christmas is done. You put that turkey stick down and you start working on the abs. You work on the whole body. That will get you that beach body, that hot boy summer body, right? You don't start in June because then you're going to have an apple orchard hot bod that no one can see because you're wearing layers of flannel. Christian McCaffrey spoke with the media, and he wants to focus on this year.
Whenever bad stuff happens, is overcomplicate and overthink. I've been playing football since I was 7. I've had a lot of success in my career. I've never missed a game in my life until last year, and sometimes it happens. And I know how to train. I know how to take care of myself. Sometimes you just get unlucky.
Christian also talked about Greg Olsen's boy, TJ, who, if you're a Panthers fan, you know very well. If you bought some of those hardest yard toques from Greg Olsen's foundation, you know that his son has had a tough go growing up with issues with his heart. And it appears, according to a social media post from Greg, that he is in need of a heart transplant. And I'm a new dad. My boy Reese, who's sleeping right now, I can't imagine what that's like for a family to say that your son's heart is running out. It's just time is ticking on that organ, and they need a transplant.
TJ is one of the best little kids in the world. At 8 years old to go through what he's gone through in his life and then add this on top of it is just sad. But I know they have such an amazing support system around, and we are all here, for the Olsen family.
Let's talk about Sam Darnold, the new quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. They picked up his 5th-year option, meaning they're paying him, I think, about $18 million. In his presser, which was last week, he says that he still doesn't have a frame for his bed. He is sleeping on a mattress on the ground.
I don't have a bed frame. My bed's still on the ground, which is great.
Panthers Confidential, he walks into his condo in Charlotte, and his mattress is on the ground. He got picked up mid-April. By the time he had that press conference, it's almost June. And he's still saying he doesn't have a frame on his bed? He said his family came to visit him. Does his mom and dad not love him? There was a piece of furniture that I did like seeing, and I don't know if this is league-wide, that all quarterbacks have this, but he had a whiteboard in his living room. Didn't have the TV set up, didn't have a couch set up, literally had nothing set up in Panthers Confidential. But just the whiteboard. But I like seeing that. Student of the game, always wants to get better. If I were him, I wouldn't even put a TV. No TV. You don't need to watch TV unless for film, but no cable, no internet, just film. Put our GM hat on. While we're not going to be a Scott Fitterer type, definitely not going to have his house. But let's look at the tight end position. Ian Thomas was picked up in the first pick of the 4th round, I believe, during his draft year. He was kind of seen as a athlete. He was an athlete at Indiana. So he wasn't particularly good at any part of the position, but he had the freakish abilities, the freakish size, the freakish skill. Matt Rule wasn't there when he was drafted. Scott Fitterer wasn't there when he was drafted. So if he can't benefit, and he was there at OTAs, but if he can't benefit from the coaching with this new regime, then he could see himself out the door looking for a job after training camp. Sam Darnold's best friend, Dan Arnold, who was picked up in free agency out of Arizona, is at least someone who is really good at one of the 2 aspects of the tight end position. Unlike Ian Thomas, he is very much a red zone threat. He is a receiving tight end. He had a pretty good year out of Arizona. So he could be coming in slated as potentially the number 1 tight end for the Carolina Panthers. Stephen Thompson, who they also picked up in free agency, kind of has his webs with multiple people within the Panthers organization. He just spent time in Seattle, where Scott Fitterer was, and he also was a tight end, kind of like an athlete weapon position in LSU with Joe Brady. Not a lot of production, like almost nothing. In his time in Seattle. So perhaps, again, kind of like Ian Thomas, if he can benefit from some of the coaching that he's going to get from Rule and company, he can maybe find himself on the roster, perhaps practice roster. Colin Thompson, another Temple guy with that Rule connection. He actually started in 4 games, and his only catch was a touchdown. So just do more of that. Giovanni Ricci is a practice squad guy, and I think, unless something changes, practice squad guy or looking for a job. Brings us to Tommy Tremble out of Notre Dame. As I mentioned before, Matt Rule is hot and heavy for the Golden Domer, and so I feel like he's going to give him every opportunity to be the number 1 tight end or 1B tight end with Dan Arnold. So I think he's going to make it happen. His athletic ability, his strength as a blocker is already known. Remember, Brady Christensen said that he felt Tommy when they were doing, obviously, tackling against a dummy, but he said he felt Tommy when they were in their rookie mini training camp. So he is already established as a blocker. All he's got to do is catch a ball. So I think he's going to start maybe 2nd in the depth chart to then move up to 1B and eventually, maybe not this year, but the year after that, 1A for the Carolina Panthers as their number 1 tight end. All right, that's it for the Panthers Post. Thanks for clicking. Again, I'm Phil Perkins. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Panthers Post. Number 1. Like Killy Cam. I know I'm going to build an Instagram account. I do have my own Instagram account that I primarily just share clips from these episodes. It's Phil, Phil.Perkins.news. I appreciate you. Hopefully by the time I post this, we're over 600 subscribers. Let's try to get to 1,000 and by the season, 2,000. Also make sure to join the comment community. A lot of you guys have some lofty expectations, maybe not for this year, but definitely for next year. And I'm feeling that too. I'm feeling you guys. I'm feeling the momentum. And it's only May, June. See you guys next week.